Topic. Dr. Bates going to Washington. This is news. Now, the Ashland Daily Tidings, in its exclusive story, broke that Dr. Bates is seriously considering a run for the U.S. Senate against Gordon Smith. Bad idea, good idea. What do you think?
What's his platform?
Anti-Gordon Smith.
Anti-Gordon Smith.
Well, he hasn't announced yet. I'm sure he'll have a platform, but he's been pretty clear. He's been pushing the statewide health care plan. That's been a big thing. He's been very high profile in the news of taking a more moderate position. That's strategically placing himself for a run because he's got to get away from that Ashland liberal label. So he's kind of taken some things with both the forest lands recently and also some of the other bills that are coming out, and he's taken a more moderate position.
But he hasn't come out and run yet. He's not.
When a politician, I covered politicians for 2 or 3 years. When they say seriously considering, they're basically saying, I'm running. I'm now the guy. We'll see what happens.
So we're saying,
the only thing stopping is if the Democratic parties that come and put a chokehold on him and say, no, we've got our money behind somebody else.
So
if he can't raise the money, he won't.
And then they trick in some little newspaper to put a story about it, and then suddenly we're running their campaign.
This is a real story, and this is a very serious.
The man doesn't even have a platform.
He does have a platform.
He has no platform.
He hasn't announced. You can't say he doesn't have a platform.
Then he's not running. Why are we talking about it?
Oh, for goodness sake.
Okay, here's the thing. I tell you what, Dr. Bates, I would be on board if he came out and said, I want our troops home tomorrow.
Well, I think
I'll run specifically on that issue, and Gordon Smith better get off. He better do something. Well,
Gordon Smith in the last, at least since the 2006 election, has been a very outspoken Republican against the Iraq War. So is that going to be the winnable issue?
He has diluted his stance considerably.
Just having anyone with such strong connections to Ashland that he has got to be good for us if he wins.
I think it's got to be good for Southern Oregon. The question is, can a Southern Oregon candidate who's only known statewide take on somebody of the stature of a Gordon Smith, an incumbent sitting senator? It's going to be a long shot. He's a dark horse by any stretch. But what we saw in 2006 is dark horse Democratic candidates who fit that moderate. That's what won.
But where's Smith been on the war?
Well, Smith's position changed after that 2006 election, and that's what a candidate's going to have to articulate. But let's face it,
he's not forceful on this. He's not forceful on this issue, and I'm telling you, if Bates comes out forceful on this issue, makes it the preeminent issue.
He's got a chance.
He has more than a chance.
This is a Vietnam veteran. I think he will win. This is not an Ashland typical guy. He's a doctor. He's got a proven track record in the Senate. He's got strong work done on a lot of different issues. Some credibility about the war.
I would go farther than Mike, even unless he jumps strong on that issue. I wouldn't support him.
That's the telltale issue.
And that's exactly where I am. Unless he comes out very strong on that issue.
Well, clearly, I think Smith was trying to inoculate himself from that with the change. Now you got to say this: Smith has taken a ton of heat since he made that switch. Democrats everywhere calling him a flip-flapper, that he's only doing it for political gain. And you know where I'm at. I'm good with flip-flopping. Flip-flopping is what I want. I want a representative that's going to listen to the people, and if they thought they knew everything on 2002 and they look up in 2006 and go, you know what, I'm no longer representing people, then by all means, flip-flop. So I'm not willing to say that Smith is just lying and all that. The true test will be if he wins again in 2008, where does he stand in 2009? But, you got to give him some credit. He's responded. He's pushed more towards the middle. He has tried to represent the mood in Oregon that is different now in 2006 than it was in 2006.
I got to tell you, I as a military veteran, 12 years serving this country, to watch my representatives stand up there and allow our troops to continue to be sent into harm's way for bogus reasons, for ever-evolving rationale, I cannot even tell you how I feel inside about that. And for a guy to not take the opportunity that he has in the position that he has to defend those who would willingly risk their lives to defend his. My only option here is Smith either better make the case to get our troops home now, in which I would support him, or if he doesn't and Bates does, I'm totally behind Bates.
I think Bates will come out strong on this issue. I think he's got the credentials to do it. I think he's clearly moving a little bit towards that moderate position. He's kind of infuriated some of the local environmentalists with some of his compromising stance on environmental issues. I think that's concerning to some people. But in a political world, there's things like political survival, and there's no way a minor candidate like himself can run against a guy like Smith without trying to make some moves here. You've got to get the vote. You've got to tack a little bit. And I think that people have to recognize that's what's going on. The other thing, though, is he has to realize is there are 4 or 5 big-name Oregon Democrats who saw the same thing happen in 2006 that everybody else saw and should be stepping up to run against Smith. And they've all, Kitzhaber, DeFazio, all the rest, they don't want to touch him. That should tell you a lot about how tough Smith's going to be. Well, I think Smith's going to be tough to beat. I think he's going to be tough to beat. But you got to give Bates credit. He's willing to take a shot.
Just because a man is tough, just because a fight is tough, doesn't mean you don't fight.
But everybody else in this state has run away from it. And so now you've got you got 4 or 5 different minor league candidates. This is where they're at. Bates is going to be in that mix. If he can win that Democratic, the primary, then suddenly he's their guy. He's going to have the full weight of the Democratic National Committee behind him. Anything could happen.
I tell you what, on the flip side of that coin, what it does tell you is that Smith is a good representative of the people. If he is that tough to beat, if he has that strong a constituency, he is doing a good job.
Well,
the only problem I have with him is that he hasn't defended the lives of those that are being willingly sacrificed right now by a political allegiance to Bush.
Well, the one thing I will say about Smith, regardless of where he's been the last year, the first 5 years, I think I saw something that's like 92% in support of the Bush Republican platform. That says a lot. I mean, as much as he wants to tack to the middle right now, as much as Bates wants to tack to the middle, you've still got a pretty strong Democrat with Democratic voting history versus a pretty strong Republican with a Republican voting history. And that alone, if Bates can win the primary, if he can get the full weight of him, if he can maybe rally on the war, a Democrat in Oregon's got a chance, but it's going to be a tough thing.